Hey there, Rocky students. This is Callan Bentley. I wanted to touch base with you now, as we're in the beginning stages of your pre-trip research, to sort of give you a sense of what the primer part of the assignment looks like. So I imagine that most of you have never written a primer before, and so I wanted to give you a few examples. These are primers that were produced by previous generations of Rocky students. And you can see here that the primer is one sheet of paper, but both sides, so 2 pages of information on a single physical sheet. That basically is a concentration of information about your particular topic. And the goal here is to produce sort of like a cheat sheet for your peers, where basically they can go and on the plane flight, look at this thing front and back and sort of get the basics about whatever the topic is. So here's another example. You can see this one's laid out in sort of a landscape format instead of a profile format. That doesn't really matter. You can lay it out however you want. One thing that you'll notice about both of those is they're in color, they're attractively laid out. Obviously, you didn't get a chance to read through them, but they lack spelling errors and typographical errors. They lack grammar errors, okay? So that's part of a good presentation, is putting it together in a way that basically is seamless in terms of information acquisition by the reader, okay? You don't want people to be stumbling over misspelled words and things like that. Here's another example. All right, so you can see this person adopted sort of a different approach, more of a table-like format. This is a beautiful one. This one's kind of on a stiff piece of paper, almost like a cardstock. Very, very glamorous in terms of the way it's laid out, very attractive looking. You can feel that you want to pick this thing up and read from it and learn from it. So here are some examples of other ones that are not quite as awesome. I think one thing that sort of sets them apart is they're clearly not in color, but they have a lot of information on them. You're going to be responsible for making the copies. And you want to make sure all the information is relevant. So it's going to be focused and relevant to the topic at hand. You want to make sure that it's illustrated, with at least one key map. So you can see there's a map visible on both sides of both of these, I think. And so that's sort of a key component of the assignment. Let's see, what else do we need to note here? Oh, you need to have at least 3 recommended readings. So like, for instance, down here, you can see that this person has listed 3 sources that they found useful and that they recommend for further learning on that particular topic. And that's going to be important because at the end of the trip, you may actually find that that topic is the one that interests you most for your final trip, your final post-trip project. So these documents that you're generating, these primer documents, can be really useful for your peers, and hopefully your peers will do a good job because it might be really useful for you. You're also, of course, going to be doing a presentation. We can talk a little bit more about that later on, but the presentation will be done in the field, but you owe Pete and I an outline of your presentation on day 1 of the trip. So it's not something you can put off doing until you get to Montana. In fact, you won't have any time to work on it once you get to Montana. So the presentation needs to be ready to go when you get on the plane, and then you'll give it basically when we tell you to out in the field. And so that might be on day 1, it might be on day 13 of the trip, just depending on where your particular topic fits geographically and temporally along the scale of the trip. So hopefully that makes sense, but that's the deal with these primers. And of course, if you have any questions about this stuff, ask me, ask Pete. We're happy to answer your questions. We want to make the assignment as clear as possible for you, which is why I'm taking the time to record this video now, and we want you to do a good job on it. So hopefully the expectations are clear and laid out without any ambiguity. Thanks a lot. I'll look forward to seeing you at our first pre-trip meeting.